Good afternoon, Writing Gals community. We are excited to come to you today and have a small question and answer session with you guys about answering your questions, anything you want to know about us.
Ooh, that sounds dangerous.
About writing.
But we're going to start with what we're doing today. So, Michelle, why don't you start us off?
I am finishing my Christmas story, and it's a lot of fun. I'm having a great time. My first grader went back to face-to-face school, so I'm actually getting real writing time in. And let's see, trying to put a box set together and trying to get just some Christmas promos lined up because it's about to be too late to do that. So I got to get on the ball. But that's where I am.
Awesome. Very exciting. Your box set is for
my whole Christmas series previous to the new release.
Gotcha. Cool.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What about you, Judy?
I am trying to get myself to start writing my next book. After I finish a book, I always have a really hard time starting again because I get too in my head and think, oh, I have to write 75,000 words all over again. That's a lot of words. And so I need to just remind myself to just break it down into little chunks and then I can do it. And I don't know. So that's my goal for this today, I guess. That's what I'm going to do after this. I'm going to start writing for real.
Or you can do what I do and have 4 stories going at the same time. So you just start at 15,000 or 22,000 or wherever you left off last time.
Yeah, I am seriously thinking about starting to do things like that so that it's not crazy overwhelming at the beginning. And then it feels like I'm sneaking in, cheating on my
cheat on your book for a little while.
Yeah. Yes. I do need to do that. Maybe I'll start 2 books today. That's what I'll do.
That's a great idea. I'm all supportive of that.
I am writing about twins, so each twin's gonna have their own story, and I thought about having them be dual timeline too. So that would work.
First chapter, second chapter.
Yeah, maybe I'll do that. That could be fun.
Or a lot of work.
Hey,
I'm going to be the voice of reason in this conversation and say you might not want to do that.
Yeah, maybe just start one. Who knows? We'll see what happens.
I know what it's like to have multiple different books going at the same time, and you will have to take a whole day to just read what you've already written to know where you're at. Yeah. So it's tempting to do that, but then it's also you can shoot yourself in the foot if you do it that way.
So don't listen to Michelle's bad advice.
I don't. That sounds fun though.
If you were to do it, I would suggest you write something in a totally different genre or something like that.
Yeah, which is usually what I do. Yeah,
I might do that because I do have an adult book that I've kind of started, so I might just work on that on the side and then do my young adult. There we go. So that's what I'm doing.
We just had a planning session for Judy.
Okay, Victorine, why don't you tell us what you're doing?
I am finishing up my second book in my Billionaire Club series and almost to the black moment. Just trying to eke it out. It's going really hard for me. Mostly because I want to write the next book so bad.
Well, my daughter Holly's waiting for it, so get on the ball.
So almost done. So finishing that up, and I have to get it uploaded before I leave for visiting family for Thanksgiving because I won't have any time during that time to do anything. So got to get it done.
Yeah.
And for me, tomorrow I launch the 3rd book of my Red Stiletto Book Club series, which I'm really excited to do because the last time I released was in July, and I have never gone this long between releases. So this is a new for me, but I'm really excited to get that one finished and out into the world. And then last week I decided I was just going to write a Christmas book. And it all came to me because I was sitting there going, if I was to write a Christmas book, what would I write it about? And never ask yourself that question because then inspiration hits and then you have to write the book. So I created a cover and that got me excited. And I just hit 30,000 words yesterday in it. And I have about 20,000 words to go. But I've been forcing myself to get up every morning and write 5,000 words by noon, except for yesterday I only wrote 2,000 and today I have not written anything. But we also just learned our kids are all going back to distance learning. So I've been kind of having some grieving processes going through there, and just the stress that that's going to bring into my life. I have 5 children, and every single one of them is in some sort of program. So it's going to be very interesting to see how that goes. But so there's that, and just trying to get out Christmas box sets and maximize on the Christmas season that is coming, the holiday season that's coming upon us. So let's get started with these questions. First one is by Brittany. She says, "Hi, ladies. I'd love to hear your tips concerning marketing in multiple genres. I have 6 YA books out, 3 contemporary and 3 fantasy, all clean and sweet. And I will be releasing my first adult sweet romance next year. I've been wavering on creating a separate pen name for the adult sweet romance, but I honestly don't think I can handle the additional time that would allow for marketing 2 pen names. I know you all write YA and adult. Any tips would be much appreciated."
I know this last fall was like really mad at myself for writing both genres under the same name because my also bots were a big mess. But I was able to get some ads and separate those a little better and make it nicer. But what I would probably do if I was going to start fresh, I would keep the same name, but maybe add a middle initial in for your sweet adult, so that whatever your pen name is for everyone, just add an initial, so that readers will kind of know it's the same author, and you can still have the same newsletter and all the same extra things, but Amazon will treat it as a separate thing and know how to market each different thing separately and where to show those books. So that's what I would do.
I think that's a great idea.
I think it's a good idea too. I haven't done anything to separate mine out. It's caused me just a couple of headaches, but I haven't had many also bought confusions with mine so far. But that's with historical, young adult, and contemporary adult, and rom-com. And my readers pretty much read all of them. When I look at my also bots, though, they're pretty similar. It's pretty much all my books, and then books that are similar to that particular book. So mine haven't really gotten messed up that much. However, when I switch over to writing some fantasy soon, I'm definitely going to change to like an ML Pennington or something like that, so that Amazon will send that to different readers, because it's a completely different ballgame when you're writing that disparate of genres.
So I'm going to give some advice from somebody who wrote under a pen name, published with the same Amazon account that nobody knew about, versus publishing different genres. I think you can publish. To me, it's less about your name and more about how you divvy up your marketing. Like what Judy said, where she uses ads to fix her also bots. I think that it's less about, because you're targeting 2 people when you write a book. You're targeting people who have read your books previously. And if you're only targeting people who've read your books previously, that's where your also bots can get messed up. But if you're targeting people who have not read your books previously and read in that genre, then your also bots will be where they need to be. I have published 2 pen names, and it is a pain in the butt to do 2 things at once. I don't like having 2 newsletters. I don't like having 2 Facebook groups. I don't like having 2 anything. If people know who you are, even if you put a middle initial in the middle, I don't know if that's going to differentiate you enough, because if you're not out finding those readers for that genre and you're just targeting your current readers, that is still going to show up in your also bots. Does that make sense? Am I speaking that right? So if you kind of have to look at 2 different options. Putting just a middle initial or something like that might not be the answer that you're looking for, unless you go completely different than your name, so people don't know who you are, and that would affect it. That would be fine, because your current audience wouldn't be looking for you there. Or you can just use the same name, but make sure that when you do advertising or you do newsletter swaps, that you do it with authors that only write in that genre. Like with Judy's experience, she would have all of us send out her YA newsletter, but we all write in sweet romance and we all write in other things. So that's where her also bots could get messed up when she's trying to just focus on sweet adult romance versus sweet YA romance. So I wouldn't just think, don't say, just put like a middle initial. You really do have to have a plan of, I need to go find those sweet adult romance readers only when I first start launching so that I don't get my Ocelots messed up.
Yeah, I was definitely very careful with
sense.
my last release to only do newsletter swaps with authors that wrote in that genre. I didn't ask any of my young adult author friends to share that book. So just make sure you're very concentrated.
And I think Amazon also doesn't just, they don't look at your name or your account as a broad. They really focus in on specific books. And I publish a lot of different books under this, a lot of different types of books. And my Ocelots are normally pretty clean. So don't think, well, if I don't have, if I have all these different genres under my one name, then all my Ocelots will get messed up. If you really focus on where your sales are coming from and who has been reading your book, Amazon's not going to be pushing your book to people who aren't going to buy it, even if there are people that have bought your books previously. So just keep that in mind. But again, where are Ocelots? Like, we focus so much on getting good Ocelots, and your Ocelots are down at the bottom of the page.
I don't think they're nearly as effective as they used to be, for sure.
I think when they come to Amazon ads, it's good to have that relevancy with those words or those authors. But yeah, Amazon's always changing stuff up for us. So beware that.
So I think to kind of sum up, I would say for a sweet young adult and sweet adult contemporary, I don't think that they're just different enough that you need to worry about a pen name, especially since it sounds like you don't want to do a pen name that's completely different. And just make sure that when you're marketing it, that you're marketing it to adult readers and doing swaps with other authors that are publishing adult romance instead of young adults, and get your book off to a good start, and it should be totally fine.
Okay, perfect. But that's a question we ask ourselves, even as established authors. Should I have done this, or should I do this in the future? Okay, Amanda says, I've planned this Nano novel, and I'm writing and I'm stuck. What are your best tips for writing through being stuck when you didn't know?
I usually have to go back a little bit and see if I messed something up that won't go with the rest of my plans for the book, or I will re-outline where I'm going just so that it can fix itself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do that too. And a lot of times if I take a step back and look at where I'm at in my story, I'm stuck because I don't have enough tension. So if the guy said, do you want to go out with me? And she says, yes, let's go out. And then they have this boring date. I'm like, oh, I'm stuck because she said, yeah, she needs to say no, and find some other way to stick them together. So yeah, that's what I do.
I think when you're pantsing, you usually get yourself into trouble because you don't stop and look at your options very much. You just oh, this is what I want to do. First thought that comes in your head, you roll ahead with it. And so, yeah, that, like they were saying, sometimes it gets you to where you took a wrong turn. And you can self-correct it. But sometimes you're just at a place and you're realizing you're not very interested in what you're writing. Mm-hmm. And so you just think, okay, what can I do to make this interesting? What throw a punch or a kiss or a dragon, or I'm just joking about the dragon. I don't know what your story's about. But just do something fun and unexpected to yourself. Challenge your story.
She's going to throw in a dragon.
Expect the Christmas dragon coming to a Kindle store near you this December.
And I think for, especially since you're doing a Nano, I mean, you have how many days left? 12 days left. If you think that going back and revising what you've written might take you longer because you want to win Nano, what I would do is just go in certain parts of your book and say, instead of having them do this, have them do this, and write that scene out. That's a way for you to get words. It's also a way for you to brainstorm. And then when Nano is over and you won, if that's your goal, then you can go back and you can say, okay, or you learn when you're writing. You're like, okay, well, if let's say a spaceship lands and I have them run away from the spaceship, but this time I'm not going to have them run away. I'm going to have them go into it. You can learn a whole different part of your story that you wouldn't even think about. Or you can go, yeah, okay, 2,000 words into that, and that was the mistake. So now I'm going to go back and change something up. I feel that pressure from your question about Nano. So I would just try and write different scenes and see what kind of what kind of inspiration that can give you. They might be junk scenes that you throw away, but if you're writing for Nano, then go ahead.
Shout out to SS.
Yeah.
Thanks for making me laugh in the middle of the podcast.
That's great.
Probably not each your main character, because then your whole book would be over. So,
Well, if you have a dragon, you're probably not writing romance, so go for it.
but each your main character, what would you do then?
It's reincarnated somehow, or I don't know.
Hey, what's her name? Killed her main character in the Divergent series, so
Spoiler alert.
oh yeah, sorry. Surely everybody knows now. Okay,
I never read it, but that's what I like. Anybody
that's
like,
why I didn't read the last
she
book.
kills the main character off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I read it, and I've never read another one of her books.
Oh yeah, it made you that angry. Amanda also asked, "What do you do to plan a series?"
Okay. Series for me are about marketing, right? Like a lot of times I come to a story with an idea or characters that I really love, but a series is about marketing and business. So I always try and sit back and think, okay, what can I do to sell these books? What is a good trope to tie the series together? What is, something that's going to be fresh and fun and unexpected, but still like, you just seriously sit down and look at the market when you plan a series. I really like to have them somewhat connected, because readers like to follow characters that they love. And so you just got to find that sort of like, what's the word? Brilliant super sauce. That's like what your series is going to be about. So like my current one, it's about a lingerie company, and body image in rom-com. And so as soon as I figured out what that series was going to be about, then I was able to tie all the other pieces off. But it was from the beginning a very determined marketing plan. And I think that's how you have to go into series every single time.
Yep.
What I have learned about series is that you should have them be standalones by themselves, but part of a greater arc or just part of a greater plot story. Not necessarily like that your series has an arc as well, but if you write fantasy, then you would want your series to have an arc as well. But if you're just writing like standalone books, it's good to have something that you can tie them all back. I have learned that. I was very resistant to it in the beginning of writing, and now I am not, because one, it helps with your read through. And you get super fans of the series as well, because they love to see regular characters that come into the story. So that's something that I try to do in terms of series. But you can do series that are just based on a trope, which is what the first two series I wrote were all based on tropes, not interconnected. So
yeah, I definitely try to focus on the characters, because that's what really drives the read through, because the readers fall in love with the side characters in book one, and then they want to hear about their story in book two, and then just always be setting up another character's romance in the previous book, so that they'll be just ready to read the next one immediately after.
Yeah. And like in my rom-com series, there's this sort of side plot running about whether or not they're going to be able to save the company and make it profitable again. And so every book shows a different character in a different sort of department of the company trying to do their part to get bras and panties selling again. So there is that kind of extra little bit to the plot that everybody likes to see. And I keep having readers say, I want to read this person's story, and it'll be like somebody who I did not plan to write a story for. And I'm like, okay,
figure that out.
Just think about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's when you really hook into something special, when the readers want to know about everybody in the world that you've given them.
they are more work though. You have to do more planning. You have to do more tracking. You have to know who's who and what they look like, so you don't have them short and blonde and then tall and brunette in a different book. So,
or have like 5 main characters who are all short and blonde.
Yes, it's such a strange company that just hires people. Okay, so Amanda also asked, if you write well with background noise, what is your noise of choice?
I like listening.
I make playlists.
Yeah, I make playlists. But for actual writing, I listen to a lot of like instrumentals, like Piano Guys, or even like Korean music from the Korean dramas. I like listening to those songs too. Breath by Sam Kim is awesome. So
That's from It's Okay, right?
yeah, It's Okay to Not Be Okay, I think.
Yeah,
So
same.
there's this really interesting thing that people have studied where if you are the kind of person that can write to songs that have lyrics, if you listen to the same playlist over and over and over and over again, your brain literally tunes it out to the point, like it helps you focus. But you have to listen to the songs in the same order, so you can't like shuffle your playlist. But if like as soon as it throws something unexpected at your brain, then it like scrambles again. But if you listen in the same order every time, then it actually puts your brain to work because it's like, consistency. I listen to this, and this is when I write, and it's pretty awesome.
Maybe that's my problem. I haven't been listening to my playlist. That's what I've been writing.
There you
Turn
go.
that thing on again.
I usually write to silence, so
The
don't
sound of
usually have
silence.
music. Unless there's noise going on and it's distracting me, then I'll put on some K-pop or something and write.
I need to get in the mood.
Yeah.
Everybody does have their own thing. I was talking to somebody else though about how you switch between stories if you're writing multiple at the same time. But I think just in general, like I have to light a candle. It's become part of my thing. So the like lighting my flame. I'm like, ooh, time to write.
Yeah.
And
I think I want to find the clip from it's a TV show where he's a writer and he's like has these like this thing he goes through, and one of it is drinking a small shot of bourbon, and he keeps getting distracted. So every time he goes back to his office, he has to do it again. So by the time he sits down to write, he's like completely drunk. I have to find it. It's so fun because he literally does that. He has to like stand over here, and then he has to go over here and light a candle, and then he has to take a shot of bourbon, and then it's like his kids keep coming in and talking to him, and then by the time he sits to write, he's just wasted. It's a surprise. I have to find it. I hope it has like a YouTube clip of it, but I can't remember what the show was called. Okay, but I was like, this is so true. Myra says, I keep hearing different opinions about advertising your first book. Some say do it, others say wait until you have more than one title. What are your thoughts?
I would advertise it.
So yeah, I would too. I would say put some money in it. If it's one of those off genre type for love books, it may not do well with advertising. So pull back your advertising and wait till you have several books, and try it then again. But if you've written something and it's to market and it's going to sell well, then you can advertise one book and really make a killing on it.
Yeah. And you might not come out guns blazing necessarily, but put some money in it and then see what's working for you and what you're learning, and keep investing where it's working. And just try and get that next book out quickly. And if you're the kind of person that can take it, then go ahead and put that second book up for pre-order and get that link in there. Because the reason people a lot of times say to wait is because it's really hard to get a good ROI on just one book. And you can get a much better one if you can sell book 2, book 3, etc. to the same reader. And so one thing that will help that with the first book is to have a link for the pre-order of the next one ready to go. So you're already starting to collect some of that reader return in.
I think also too, just like writing, advertising is not a natural skill everybody has, and there's definitely a learning process. And so I say, don't spend money you don't have. Make sure you're getting back what you're putting into it. But take this time to learn advertising so that when you do have a series, that you have the skills to advertise. Some of it, like especially with Amazon ads, it's having relevancy for all the keywords that you're targeting. So if you just start targeting them, you're gonna be paying extra and being outbid by people who have been advertising. So it's kind of a process that you have to think. But it's also, if you're still in those starts of writing and you're like, I can't add another thing to my plate, then the best thing you can do is just write your next book while doing some research into how you advertise. So
be sure you have your newsletter.
Yeah, it's very easy to get excited and way overspend on advertising. So just do it cautiously. Myra said, for my reader magnet, I'm writing some deleted scenes. However, these are to encourage newsletter signups after the book has been published. In the meantime, would giving a sneak peek at the first few chapters be enough to encourage sign up? Has anyone done this before? Is it even allowed if going into KU? So I've done this multiple times, and it's totally fine. Until your book is in KU, you can do whatever you want with it. It's your book.
And even after that, you can do the first 10%.
Yeah. I have done it. Make sure if you do, put a link for the pre-order in the back so that people can read the first 3 chapters and go directly to Amazon to purchase it. It's a way to get people excited. Be very clear that it's a sneak peek, limited edition, whatever, so that they don't think they're getting a whole book. But I've done it. Yeah, I've done it multiple times and has had it been successful, especially since you'll get an excited audience for when it launches. Okay. Do you guys have anything to add to that? Nope. Okay. She also asked, pacing is my biggest problem when writing. Any tips?
Get in and get out. That's my motto.
Yeah.
If you're talking about pacing in a scene, I always try and keep things moving quickly. I don't want to give my reader a chance to get bored and put the book down. And to do that, you try and keep your dialogue sharp. You try and keep your descriptions to a minimum, like effective and impactful, but a minimum. And you try and not write things that are boring. You try and always write about something that is important and pertinent and moves the plot along. If you have a lot of scenes where there are introspective or sitting around having slow conversations, it is going to slow things down and give sometimes readers do need a little bit of a break like that. And you need to have those scenes where the characters can sort of make sense of what's going on and figure out how to move forward from it. But you need to have, really important things going on in there with like good chemistry between the characters, so the conversation is still exciting for them, all those kinds of things. In general, with your book, if scene and sequel, the whole idea of it really baffled me for a long time. I had a hard time learning about it, but I would suggest looking up how to write in a scene and sequel pattern and pay attention to it. And basically it's where something exciting happens in a really active scene. And then there is a scene where the characters regroup, they think over what just happened and make a decision on how to move forward. So, and then you just keep that going throughout your novel. And so if you have too many scenes that's all action, 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 then that can mess up your pacing quite a bit. You do need to have those scenes where the characters stop, think, make decisions, and move forward again, or recuperate after a loss, or that sort of thing.
Yeah, all good stuff. I agree with all of that, and I think pacing is one thing that I learned after writing several novels. It just took some time to practice and time to feel out what everybody was saying in all of the craft books and trying to figure it out on my own. And so it's one of those things that you just have to practice, and sometimes you get better at over time.
Yeah, and just like reading a lot of books in your genre too, and just paying attention to what they're doing and at the different parts and what's interesting you and what's not, and to do more of the good stuff and less of the boring.
Yeah. One thing that can change pacing for you is to end a chapter in the middle of like an exciting scene, so that when you start the next chapter, you're starting at an exciting place and you just take off from there. Because what tends to happen, especially with new writers, and happened to me for years, was that the start of my next chapter would be all exposition. Mm-hmm. And I would just be explaining this and thinking about that and all this sort of stuff. And it was never exciting, and it's got bogged down and really slow. So to me, the best thing you can do is to end one chapter at the beginning or in the middle of something exciting and jump right into it in the next chapter. And then you always have this exciting pace moving through your story.
Yeah. Well, I've heard like even in, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead, Judy.
And I heard like even in like traditionally published books, a lot of times like authors will, the publisher will split up their novel into chapters differently than they had sent them in. And I always notice when I'm reading like Soraya Wilson's books, because I like her books a lot. But I noticed that like they always do the chapter switch like in the middle of a kiss. And so I'm like, okay. Well, of course I'm going to keep reading that kiss. So,
and the best thing about K-dramas is when they end an episode on a kiss, because then you know you're going to get to watch the kiss all over again at the beginning of the next episode. So you get like double kiss.
Yes. And then you go back and rewind it again. Yeah. You go to the other end.
So you can watch it like 4 times.
Yeah.
Because you always rewind it and then you rewind it again. So 4 times.
And you go to the previous episode's end and then go to the beginning again. So, okay, yeah.
Anyway. Write lots of kisses. Keep your pacing up with big kisses.
We did a podcast with Inez Johnson about this exact thing and how studying screenplays and TV shows are really good in terms of pacing and keeping your reader engaged. You want to be careful that you're not doing cheap tricks at the end of your chapter to get people to turn pages, because that will anger them. But you definitely want to keep them moving through it. It says, I read a book that was like a futuristic fantasy one, and at the end of the book, they ended it by her opening up a door to like, what? I don't know what she opened a door to, but she opened a door and then they ended the book. So I'm like, that's a really kind of cheap way to get people to buy the next book.
Or you open the door and you show them what's there, and then you end it.
No, they just opened the door and that was the end of the book. So you just got to be careful in hooking your reader, that you also make sure that you're not making them disappointed or angry, but also not losing them. So like I felt, I know I've talked about this before, but like Marissa Meyer's books, I loved the first one, I loved the second one, but by the time she got to the third one, she kept like what I was there for was the romance, but every like couple of chapters it stopped with the romance and it went to like these other characters
who are already in love. You're like, I don't care about that.
Yeah, I know. And I'd be like up at night reading it, and I'd be like, oh, how many chapters until I get back to them? Okay, well, I'll just put the book down and go to bed. I'm like, you never, ever, ever want your reader to say, I'm going to put my book down and go to bed. We want to keep you up all night long till the end of the book. So, so there's positives and negatives. You kind of have to find that balance. So basically what I'm saying is good luck. But I agree with you, Blaze. A lot of it has to do with repetition, learning, watching, studying, reading. How do they keep you engaged? Because there's definitely ways that you can not keep them engaged, and then you can try to keep them so hooked that you just tick them off. So there's definitely a balance there.
Pacing is controlling your reader's attention.
Yeah. And making sure you don't have blocks of just text. You don't have just dialogue. You know, if you're going in 3, I was Maggie Dallin and we co-write together. Maggie's like, I can keep my readers or my characters in a scene for 3 chapters, and I don't even realize that they're in the scene. So making sure you're not repeating things, making sure you're not being repetitive, not making sure they're not like, I'm going to tell this character and then this other character is going to come up and I'm going to tell that character the same thing. Like that's the kind of pacing that the reader already knows that information. You don't need to retell them. So it's definitely a challenge. You learn it the more you write it, huh?
Yeah, I was saying clear the junk out of your story.
Yeah,
that's just that's why I say get in and get out. Like put the bare minimum in, the most impactful things. Hi, Judy.
You're muted. I'm just wiping off my computer thing because it's dirty. So. Sorry.
She's double tasking. All right. So Crystal asks, "Hey, writing gals, I watch your show often. I suck at copywriter. I suck at copywriter page, and it costs to get the short stories copyrighted. Copyrighted with Library of Congress. Do I have to do that for short stories?
You don't have to do it with long stories.
Nope.
Okay. So like the way I best understand copywriting is that you own the copyright to any creative work that you do immediately upon doing it. You can file in the copywriter's office, and it gives you an extra advantage if you should go to court. That's basically the only thing it's going to do for you. Right now, the way the laws are written, if you should get involved with any kind of court battle with your work that you own, having the copyright filed will be clear, clear victory as far as the judge is concerned because you've taken it to the legal thing. You can still win without it. You just will be limited in the amount of money that you can get from the other person who may have plagiarized your work. So if you want to be able to take people to court for plagiarism and, really let into them with like heavy, what do you call it? Where you like,
Litigation?
yeah, I don't know. Where you're basically saying, you have to give me $1 million for plagiarizing my book. You really are only going to be successful with that if you have the copyright filed. So for me, it has not been something that I've been worried about because I personally made the decision after seeing some authors have their lives almost destroyed over trying to litigate plagiarism that I was going to let that derail my career. So I'm not necessarily worried about taking anybody to the cleaners, and I'm waiting for the laws to get changed, which there have been several bills that have been going through the through Congress, and I don't know if the latest one actually made it through or not, but I doubt it. They're trying to get it to where the burden of proof is not so heavy upon the copyright owner, and that they are able to have a more fair ability to get what they deserve from people who have stolen their rights, instead of having to pay so much in legal fees to be able to get any kind of redress for it. So it's kind of all a mess, and that is the long and short of it, and you can make your own decision, but I personally wouldn't do it for short stories, for sure.
No, I don't think it's worth it for short stories.
I think if it's like Harry Potter or something like that, where you're gonna take it to the maximum, whatever possibility of things to do with it, then that'd probably be worth it. But I really don't see it. I mean, the truth is, as an author, you're going to get lots of people who email you and say, "Hey, I found your book on this pirate store, on this pirate website," and you go, "I know, it sucks. Mm-hmm. It's there, and nothing I can do about it." So you just kind of have to let it go and let it go. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I mean, it also comes down to like words. People are trying to copyright words. You can't copy. That's a hard chunk to say together. Copyright words. There we go. You can't do but you I mean maybe like Harry Potter as a word is copywritten, but copyrighted. So, Mika says, what is the absolute last date you would recommend to release a Christmas novel or novella?
Right now, mine's on
December 1st.
But I'm going to release it before then. I would say if
15th.
Mm-hmm. I would.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you guys. You were talking at the same time. What was the dates?
I wouldn't go past the second week of December.
No.
Yeah, I agree.
I said December 1st.
Week of November.
Ideally, you want to have, I like to have my new release for the year in its 30-day new release window up until Christmas. So I'm good with anything after November 25th for my new release of the year. But Christmas sells after Christmas. So this book that I'm about to publish this year is going to be released about a week into December. And it's totally okay. It's going to be fine. And it will sell this year. It will sell through the year, and then I'll sell it next year too. So books are evergreen, and if you don't get it out until the middle of December, it may not be the best. It may not be ideal, but what are you going to do? Keep it under wraps for another year? So
people read into January and February for Christmas stuff. So
and you can promote it again. Yeah, and you can promote it again the next year and the next and the next.
It was cool for my Amazon ads. I've had just ones running on my Christmas ones, and all of a sudden, like a week and a half ago, they just turned back on, and I was getting clicks and I was getting sales. I just think it becomes around this time is when people start really looking for that. So it's definitely something that is, like you said, evergreen. I would just want you to be like, I mean, I hit top 100 with my YA Christmas book on Christmas Day. So it's not like Christmas Day happens and then nobody reads any Christmas romance ever again. It definitely kind of peters out. I would say probably mid-January to end of January. That's when you start seeing your Christmas books not selling as much as they were previously.
It's almost like people are so busy with Christmas that they can't read Christmas Story. And then once Christmas is over, they have a little bit of a break. And they're like, time to read the Christmas books.
Yeah. But if you have the time and the capacity to get it done sooner, do it sooner. That is my suggestion. Okay, so this one Facebook user said, Laura Burton says, I have a question. Do you have a system wherein organizing all your book files? Now I've got a lot of books. My laptop is a mess.
Yeah.
I just started putting stuff in folders.
Yeah,
Yeah,
mine are in folders.
like,
So I have
a
like,
month ago.
yeah, so I like have a Judy's Writing Everything folder. Inside that I have published projects folder. And then inside that I have a folder for each of my series. And then inside the series folder, I have the books.
I just, under my Word documents, I just have a different folder for every series that I've got out. And within the series, within the series folder, I'll usually have like a folder for like any drafts or partials or whatever I've got for that. But outside of the folders, I'll usually have the master file, so it's like easier to find. So I will just have like Sawdust and Mistletoe Published is the name of that file. And that way I always know exactly which one is currently live on Amazon, because I have made the mistake of choosing a master file or a final file, and it was not the published version. So as soon as my file goes live on Amazon, I name the file published, and that is the one that I go
So
with.
the nice thing about Vellum is you can just go straight into your Vellum file and make changes, and then it just uploads the new file. So I just have to make sure that the date says it for the date that I'm on.
Yep, I just have a folder for every book and named it the title of my book. And then inside that folder, I have the working file what I'm working on. And then when it's all edited, I make a folder for edited and one that says formatted and stuff like that. So I know the different stages of where I'm at.
Yeah. But sometimes
All
I've
right,
ended
we
up
got
with
another
master.
question. Master.
Like master.
Some authors are saying,
huh?
Okay, we're moving on to the next question.
Why are we
Michelle.
talking? Like, we usually don't have so much trouble talking over each other. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if we have a delay or what.
It's
Yeah,
because we're all awake. When we're at nighttime, we're all like, okay. Some authors are saying they are struggling selling in some romance subgenres right now. Would you advise new authors to do? What would you advise new authors to do? Well, that's an interesting question because it doesn't give us a lot of information. You have to say, well, is it a subgenre or is it a trend? Those are two different questions. So if it's a trend would be like bully or reverse harem. They're not necessarily tropes that sell consistently. There are things that are a trend that happens. Like right now, the trend, I don't know if you guys have seen this in women's fiction, is paranormal women's fiction. If you even try to target just the word on Amazon, women's fiction, you are going to get shown on a ton of women's paranormal fiction, which is not historically a trope for women's fiction or for paranormal. So that would definitely, it might be a trend that turns into a trope, but there are definitely people who get on trends that are not necessarily long-standing tropes. So like when Twilight came out, now Twilight vampires is always a trope, but there is a trend that follows the Twilight that sometimes people think that it's dead because maybe it's just not as hot as it used to be, even though it is still selling. So that's where my question would come in is it a subgenre or is it a trend?
And my advice is just put out the best books you can and people will find you and find that special something that you put in your books that nobody else does. And they will follow you as an author and buy up everything you write.
Yeah. One thing to check into is if the subgenre is selling and you're just not, or if, if like it's doing really well, like, or it's not selling at all. That's what I mean. So maybe if it's a subgenre that's not very popular, doesn't have very many readers, like if it doesn't even have very many books in the category, or if you look at the bestsellers list for any subgenre and the top books in that subgenre aren't ranked very high in the store, then it means it's not very popular. Not many people are buying it in general. And there's probably not a whole lot that you can do if you love it, then keep writing in it. But if you're wanting to find something that sells really strongly, then try and find a category that has a good market and try and write competitively within that market.
And we talk about that all in our book.
We do. So go read Writing to Market by the Writing Gals.
Yeah.
Well, and I think you also have to look at, like, are the big sellers, do they have long series, and how long are their books? Like, it's are they established authors in that subgenre that can continue to sell forever? Or because for me, it's jumping on hot subgenres or hot trends, you have to tell yourself, do I want to write multiple books about the same thing? Or am I jumping into it because I think more readers are looking for it? So, trends can be great to hop on, but if you're not willing to dedicate a whole series or a lot of your writing time to it, you can't necessarily say that a subgenre is no longer selling, because there's so many factors into why perhaps your subgenre or your book is not selling, and it could be any of those multiple reasons.
And in general, if something's not selling well, it's either because readers don't want it or because readers can't find it.
Yeah.
So anybody who's... Go ahead.
We always think, oh my gosh, all the readers are bored of this, or there's too many people publishing in it. And that, while it seems right, is also not right. I always think of it as my husband and I, when movie theaters were open, we'd go see a movie every weekend. And as long as it hit our guidelines of things that we wanted to watch, we would see a movie. Like, readers, they have a finite amount of time, but they can read more than we can probably comprehend them being able to read. And some things, like if they read Victorine's book, they might not want to read mine. They might be more attracted to Michelle's. But all of Victorine's readers might be split in half between me and Michelle. But then you know what I mean? Like, so we're constantly cycling around readers. And it's not necessarily like, well, if all of her readers aren't my readers, then I'm not supposed to be in this subgenre, or that we're competing against each other or anything like that. So also keep that in mind, that if you feel like, well, this subgenre is flooded, find a different way to take that type of subgenre but make it your own, because there's so many readers out there. We can't even comprehend how many people exist in the United States alone that can read.
Yeah, I do tend to think in general that light, fluffy, fun stuff is selling better than dark, heavy stuff right now. Just from what I've seen going around, that tends to be what readers are responding to in these difficult times right now. Like, they have enough crap going on in their lives right now. They don't need to read about somebody else's as much as they maybe would have otherwise. So.
Okay, so Mika also asked, really pay attention to what's selling right now. I'm not sure what that question is. You guys have any advice on paying attention to what's selling right now?
Always do it.
Yeah, always look at the top 100 list on Amazon for your genre. I do that.
Oh, no, that's part of the question. Would you advise new authors to really pay attention to what's selling right now?
Yeah, always.
If they want to sell books, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Which we go into in our book. And we talk a lot about the difference between writing for love and writing for money.
Sorry, I'm here. I have to plug my computer in or it's going to die. So let's get on the next question. Is this one? I just realized I have 2 Facebook IDs, ad IDs for my author page and another for my personal. Do I try to combine them or just not worry about it?
Well, it's kind of good to have 2 going in case one of them gets shut down. But I don't know lots otherwise, so I'm going to shut up now.
Yeah, I don't do a lot of Facebook.
2 Facebook ad IDs. I've had more than 2. I think it's fine. Sometimes when you get shut down, they'll shut them all down.
Oh, will they?
Yep.
Then you use your husband's account.
That's right.
Oh, sorry. It's time to go pick up my son. So, no, luckily, my husband's doing it today. That's what that alarm was. Yes, I need an alarm to remember to get my child, okay?
I have alarms for all those things too. It's called being smart so that you don't forget your kids.
Yes.
So this is from the same author. They just asked it a different way. Would you advise a newbie to write something that's more trending right now, or try something a little different?
Try to write something that is historically popular.
Yeah.
more than what's trending. That's what the difference between writing to popular or tropes is versus writing to trends. So you try and find something that readers respond to over the course of time always, because it's universally, enjoyable, instead of something that is kind of a flash in the pan. Sometimes the two combine, and that just makes for a gravy train for somebody who's happening to hit it, the right time. But yeah, so best friends to lovers, for example, is always going to be popular. And there might be some kind of trend that best friend is like a werewolf, kind of thing. I don't know. But yeah, there's a different, if you're always chasing trends, then you're probably always going to be late to them. From what I've seen, the people who do really well writing in trends that blow up and get really big, it's people who are already there writing really strong. And everybody else who tries to jump on, they don't last, they don't make as much money, and the trend moves on without them, before they've been able to really establish themselves there. So chasing trends is probably not anything that's going to be productive for anybody over a career.
Well, and I think you want to establish a lifelong career, not just a sudden spike in things. So we were also asked if any of you enjoy Hallmark movies, what is your favorite movie? And would you like to see one of your stories adapted into a Hallmark movie?
Hallmark, call me. I've got Sawdust and Mistletoe and a whole series after that I would love to see made into a movie, even if you ruin it. That's what I've said. Even if they ruin it, which they probably would, I'd still like to see it happen just to check it off my bucket list.
See, but, I want Netflix. That's who I want. I want them to turn my series.
I know Netflix is like the new powerhouse in the game.
It really is.
Yeah. But for Hallmark movies, there's this one called The Most Wonderful Time of the Year. And it's probably like, 8 or 9 years old now, but they still play it every year. And some of the acting is terrible in it, but I love it. And the guy who plays the main character inspired the hero in my first ever book that I ever published. So it's kind of got a special place in my heart. And he's got really cute nipples. So
yeah. See, I can't remember the title of the one that I really liked the most. I watched it last year, but it was this guy who needed a dating coach, and of course they fell in love, and of course I wrote a book kind of like that
with Haley Duff and the guy who is the DJ who has to go to the small town and be part of her tiny radio station, and he's like a bad, just because I think a lot of times Hallmark movie actors are not the best actors, but he did a really good job of not being able to be like, I can kind of tell you're acting, okay? So, maybe not do that.
So we could start talking about Hallmark movies all day long.
Yes.
Okay, I really want to see my current book that I'm writing put into a Hallmark movie because I make fun of Hallmark movies.
Oh, that would be funny.
Yeah, that would be funny.
It would be really funny.
I'd say we have all this set pieces
just like that too, Amy.
What?
Pitch it to him just like that.
Yeah.
Make my book into a movie because it's making fun of all you.
It's like I don't know. It's really it's a fun book to write. I could like out of all my Christmas books, and I could see all my Christmas books. I'm like, this one I could literally see being made into a movie. So
well, everyone always makes like the videos this time of year making fun of them. So it's basically the book.
I just watched the Holdernesses one. Have you seen that? The Holderness family one? I just watched theirs. It was pretty funny.
Netflix needs to make your movie.
Yeah.
That's what you need. Yeah.
Okay, Netflix, if you're listening, you need to make it.
Well,
I read the book first. You haven't finished it yet. But it's just funny because it's like in my book, they go to a place called Christmas Land that they're like, it's a kind of this assumption, or people think that they actually manufacture all these Hallmark experiences for you to have while you're there, which is most of the time normal coincidences. But for my female main character, they're actually creating all these experiences for her. So it's been really, I'm like, it's easy to write a book when I'm like, okay, now I need to introduce, like I gotta have the ex-girlfriend come back and, and I gotta have her in a baking competition and I gotta do this, and so
under a gazebo.
Huh?
meet under a gazebo, have the Christmas
There
light.
is
And have the tree lighting ceremony
Tree
on
lighting ceremony.
Christmas Eve.
Uh-huh.
I hate that so much.
I just had them have an almost kiss because you have to have an almost kiss in every Hallmark. So basically, I'm writing my story based off the bingo cards from Hallmark movies or the bingo cards. So, anyways. So this one asks the same thing about advertising. We've talked about that in different shows. And then we have Laura Burton who asks something. Could always make it a Boxing Day sale too? Is it Boxing Day Canada stuff?
Well,
Yeah, day after Christmas.
It's English too. I don't know where all it is, but yeah, Boxing Day is after Christmas, which obviously works better in the UK than in the US. So
this one asks, with all the talk last week of people leaving Facebook, would you continue doing Facebook ads or concentrate on Amazon ads right now? What's the best place to advertise for at the moment? I would say Facebook, definitely. People will be leaving Facebook, but I don't think they're completely leaving Facebook. I've joined other platforms just because I'm like, if I ever want to start advertising on these platforms, I need to know what they are. But Facebook and Amazon, always Amazon is an important one to learn. And then Facebook, I mean, people are leaving Facebook, but I don't think at the extent that it's gonna do. If anything, what ruined Facebook last month was all the election ads, and now that that's over, we're gonna move into all the Christmas ads now. So, Joycelyn said sugar and spice. Yes, that's the one. I love that one too. The one I liked. Okay, here we go. Do you run a sale after Christmas Day to entice people who got new e-readers for Christmas?
That's a good idea.
I'm already trying to plan an early January promo for my rom-com series because of that.
I say yes, but I also say no because I think people are going to have a lot of Amazon gift cards and they're going to be excited to have e-readers. So I think I would not suggest putting all your books on sale. I would suggest you do like maybe one and buy a lot of advertisements, newsletter swaps, that stuff for that book, but then leave your other books for sale at full price because you will probably actually make that money. Someone said she loved The December Bride on Hallmark, which was based on a book.
Yeah, I've seen that one. I hate that actress, but the movie was probably pretty good besides that. I don't know, something about her face. She's this brunette with long straight hair, and she's got this. I don't know. There's some actresses I enjoy watching better than others.
I'm with you too. I like to have attractive people that I think attractive.
It's not that she's not attractive. She's a pretty lady. She's just something about her makes me want to I don't know.
Okay, so someone asked, do you change the covers on your Christmas books during the year and then change them back to Christmas themed covers in holidays? I have. If they're part of a series, I have taken them out. I made them more Christmassy. I've taken them out of the normal series and put them all into one Christmas series on a series page that are all Christmas themed. I normally leave them the title they are, except for when I changed last year, but I don't think I could do that this year because Amazon's cracking down on people changing ebook titles and things like that. So I don't think it affects you a whole lot because I think people still notice the Christmas theme, but I
think you need to have a compelling reason to do it and not just to market it all. I wouldn't for example, for my Christmas series, which is a Christmas series, I throw down on the Christmas thing. It's heavy Christmas. That's what it's for. Amy's talking about, it's a book in part of a series that is not all Christmas. Yeah. So I've got one book that's like that. Every other Christmas book I've written is part of this Christmas series. So I leave it as Christmas all year long, all the time. That's what it is. So it just depends on that particular title. If it would make sense to sell it as something other than Christmas, then go for it. But as far as something that is as heavily Christmas as my whole series is, I wouldn't do that because Christmas does sell through the year and it's a lot to mess with to go back and forth constantly because I would have to rechange it every single Christmas season and that would get really frustrating and readers would be really confused by it because you do always kind of have to weigh readers going I read this. And sometimes Amazon tells them, you purchased this book before, that kind of thing. But, if they don't recognize the cover or the title or like all these different things, it can just kind of cause a little bit of confusion out there. So like, I just know that because I have a daughter that reads constantly on KU, and she's always like, I was so excited because I saw that one of my favorite authors had a new book out, and then I clicked on it and just realized it's an old book I've already read with the new cover on it, and I was so disappointed, and that kind of thing. So.
All right, well, that's all of our questions. A lot of Christmas questions. We do have a couple of Christmas podcasts that we've talked about Christmas books specifically. So if you want to head over to YouTube, you can find our channels there. I think in the next couple of episodes, probably our next one, we're going to probably talk more about our goals.
I think we need a 2020 recap because this year. And then definitely 2021. So I have a planner or a little calendar that's like my messy planner. And it's got 2021 with 2020. And I turned the page over to January. And it's like, oh my gosh, like a fresh, clean year with nothing wrong with it and nothing crazy. And I have made zero decisions with what I'm going to be writing, except for, one project I've decided. But I just can't wait to make some goals for next year. I'm super excited about it.
I'm excited too.
Yeah. So if you guys want to join us, make sure you write your own. We'd love to hear what your goals are, or what your takeaway from 2020 was. Did you hit your 2020 goals? Did you not? And why? I mean, I think we can all know why we did not hit it. It's not like a question.
It's a mystery. I don't know.
I know. What is going on with me? But what we can do to make 2021 even better, and what we can do as authors to give people the escape that they are desperately in need of. So keep that in mind. Come to our next meeting, which will be December.
First Thursday in December. So
First Thursday at 2:00 Central Time here on the Writing Gals and on our YouTube channel.
Yep.
So what we're going to talk about, first our 2020 evaluation, and then the next one we'll do our 2020 goals or 2021 goals. 2020
yeah, so that's December 3rd, and then are we going to do December 17th as well?
Yeah. I need to, because that's how I set my goals. And we're lucky because we actually have our goals on video. So we can we should figure out a way to snapshot, okay, here was Amy's goals and this is what she said, and then we can laugh
at ourselves. I know for sure I've written half the books that I plan to write this year.
We should do it at chipmunk speed too, so we can just watch ourselves how
Michelle.
ambitious and like a baby fawn I was last year.
I remember one of you laughing at me. They're like, "Really, Michelle? Are you sure?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's my goal. I'm doing it."
Like every single month. I remember your goal.
I remember.
Dude, I said four books. I wrote 3. So
hey, I was watching. I went back because I was like, I don't even remember what my goals were. I set some pretty loose goals, so I hit my goals. I'm not specific at all.
See, I still have mine right here in front of my face. So.
Oh, wow. And that's even after a move. You still have that. You weren't like,
wow.
I don't need to look at them.
Well, she did better with hers than I did, so I would have kept them too.
I just set mine really low. That's what you got to do. Really, you can always be a winner.
I didn't even publish a book until 4 months into the year. So I'm off to a great start. I'm blaming COVID and K-dramas for my thrilling success this year.
Yeah. But I'd be interested to see what your numbers look like and your efforts and what you put forward. Was watching K-dramas, did that benefit your writing and all that?
Did I lose $30,000? Very likely. But did it improve my writing? Yes, it did.
Yeah, but you also have to say, how many books did I publish last year and how many did I publish this year, and what is my profit off of that? Because you might actually be profiting more by writing less. You don't know. So
I'll have to throw some numbers around, except that I do have a whole backlist that is not selling as well as I'd like it to.
Yeah, so I think we all have that.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
that's why I need that Netflix movie. Then my backlist can just...
That's right.
I just hit the lottery, win the lottery, and then I'll be set. And then it won't matter if my books are selling. I can just make them sell. All right. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. You guys go on to get all the words. If you have any questions, go ahead and ask in our group. If you haven't joined our group, make sure you do. Please also subscribe down below and hit the notification bell so you know anytime we go live that you'll be a part of it. And we will see you guys later.